Namaste,
Namaste.
and welcome to our continuing series, Interviews with Disciples and Devotees. Today I'm honored to have Arnab with us, and the question I always begin with, Arnab, and welcome,
Thank you.
Namaste,
Namaste.
is how did you first hear of Sri Aurobindo and Mother?
That's a tough one. First of all, there was no choice, so to speak, because my grandmother belongs to the Ghosh family of Sri Aurobindo. She grew up in the ancestral home in Konnagar, in Bengal, near Calcutta. So she knew, obviously, and in fact, they have some lovely comments and stories on Sri Aurobindo when he came back from England.
Oh,
Yeah, because
will you be able to share any
yeah,
of
sure,
this?
sure,
That
sure.
would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, people would be very grateful to hear that.
So that's my paternal grandmother. She grew up actually in Konnagar. And then my grandfather felt a call towards Sri Aurobindo's works. He was a communist, youth leader under Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, the famous freedom fighter. And he was agnostic, completely. And then reading Sri Aurobindo completely turned him around.
I see.
Completely a Voltfass, you know. And then he got in touch with Nolnida. So Nolnida was our contact initially in the early Nolnida.
Nolini?
Yeah. So in the early 50s or maybe late 40s. Yeah. So they came down, I think, in the early 50s sometime. So
Did they ever have the opportunity to see Sri Aurobindo?
no, unfortunately not. And of course, they met the mother. And in fact, my grandfather told me that he had a lot of questions before his first darshan of the mother. And he came with a lot of questions that were stemming from all the readings he was having from Sri Aurobindo's works. But once she touched his head, all the questions completely silenced.
Yes.
And he said it was a completely, he said, this is home. This is where I belong. And he stayed back.
So when did he move here?
I think he moved in the mid-50s.
Mid-50s?
Yeah. So in a way, we are probably one of the older families
Yes.
of ashram. And then he brought in my father and uncle, who grew up totally here in the ashram school.
In the ashram school?
Yeah. And I grew up in the ashram school. So therefore I said I had no choice. I was born into it.
Right.
My sister grew up here, and her sons, they are in primary school today. So we are having quite a bit of a lineage here.
Yes, quite something. Tell us some of the stories that you remember.
Oh, there's one story my grandmother used to narrate when we were kids. It seems Sri Aurobindo, as you know, he learned on his own Sanskrit to a great extent, and he read the scriptures. But he didn't have a practicing knowledge of speaking Bengali, because whom would he speak to back in England? So when he came down here in Calcutta near Konnagar, in his ancestral home, the people, especially the women folk who did not know Sanskrit and he did not know spoken Bengali, they had an amazing conversation between Sanskrit and Bengali, even figuring out what would you have for lunch. So he used to speak in completely Sanskritized Bengali, and the women folk used to kind of figure out what is
he saying?
What is he exactly saying? What does he want for lunch? So because they thought he was a gentleman, an English gentleman, because he's just came back from there, and they wondered, would he have vegetarian food or non-vegetarian food? Would he have the British manners or not? Even pragmatic issues like this was quite an interesting humorous conversations, because you had like two different languages going crisscrossing each other. Yeah.
But he knew Sanskrit at that time quite well.
Yeah, he knew Sanskrit. So he used to actually speak in very highly Sanskritized Bengali. What we call it sadhu bhasha. in fact.
Ah.
And that's the kind of language that if you were to read Rishi Bankim Chandra's works, which Sri Aurobindo spoke a lot about, including the volume Vande Mataram comes from Anandamath, which Rishi Bankim Chandra Chatterjee wrote. So that's the kind of language that was used those for literal languages, but it was a very different colloquial.
Yes.
Bengali was very different.
Very difficult too.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
So they kind of spoke, and it was like a lot of cross-purpose talking going on to figure out what you're going to have for lunch.
So did your grandmother meet him?
No, did not get to meet him. So she came to know about these stories because by the time he already had left for Calcutta and then came over here. So she grew up, she missed
Yes.
meeting him in a certain sense.
So tell me a bit about Nalini and how
I think
everyone had him as a guide or a friend.
Yeah, I think he considered my paternal grandfather as a younger brother. So there are a lot of discussions on Purna Yoga, integral yoga, and also what are the challenges that comes, especially for the ego. I mean, because somewhere there is to read, there is to also interpret, and also to also reflect and self-observe what's happening in their own inner and outer life, as an individual as well as a collective.
And your family must have known Purani also.
Yes, definitely, yeah.
And tell us a little bit about your education growing up here.
Oh yeah. So here, first of all, I may have to say something. Another component is our lineage from music. Because my grandfather was a vocalist, Indian classical vocalist, and my paternal grandmother's brother was a very well-known violinist. And he learned from his guru, who was very well-known, called Baba Alauddin Khan, who was the guru of Pandit Ravi Shankar.
Oh.
So they all learned together in the Guru Shishya system in Maihar, in Madhya Pradesh. So for 12 years. And then he taught my father, and my father taught me.
Oh.
So I come from the lineage of the musical style and lineage of Baba Alauddin Khan, Ravi Shankar ji, my granduncle Pandit Ravin Ghosh, who afterwards taught for many, many decades in Tagore's University in Vishwabharati.
Well, I have been honored to hear your piano playing. Perhaps you could sing something for us.
Sure, we could.
That would be wonderful.
What about a mantra?
Fine.
Okay. Let me get my little smartphone instead of bringing a tanpura. This is it.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just kind of miniaturizing. Yeah. Okay, let me get a tanpura. Maybe something to start off with for Sri Aurobindo.
Yes.
I'm Sri Aurobindo. Namo Bhagavate Sri Aurobindaya. Namo Bhagavate Sri Aurobindaya. Namo Bhagavate Sri Aurobindaya.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gayatri Mantra.
You mean Sri Aurobindo's?
Yes.
Let me get back to it because I'm still in the Sri Aurobindo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else
Anytime.
you'd like to do?
Anything
else?
Maybe Om Anandamai Chaitanya.
Yes, wonderful.
Om Anandamai Chaitanyamai Satyamai Parame Om Anandamai Chaitanyamai Satyamai Parame Om Anandamai Chaitanyamai Satyamai Parame
Perhaps you could give us one more? Anything of your choice.
Let me think. Just reminded me of, we did a workshop at Sakar recently where we had a walking meditation like the Buddhist monks with Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. The idea was, can we achieve a state of collective flow and see if the mantra can lead our walk like the Buddhist monks do?
That's what we do in the Om choir.
So we tried that, and it was interesting. We had Aurovillians, we had Ashramites, we had also members from the Golden Chain community, and we were about 75 of us.
Oh.
Yeah.
We had more than 120 people, I think, this last Christmas Eve. We did
Wonderful.
a candlelight ceremony.
Wonderful.
So, Om is our only word,
Oh,
and the
wonderful.
most powerful.
And the most powerful.
I have the octave below your voice.
Okay. Would you like me to go down?
I could just hum it as you sing.
Okay.
I think so.
Or should we simply do Om? That's...
Whatever you like.
Yeah, let's do the Om together. Do you want... This is in C. Do you want me to... Or I could lower it. Okay. Do you want me to lower the scale?
No,
Or
it's
it's alright? Okay. Just simply Om.
One feels immediately the peace.
Absolutely.
Fills the room when we sing Om.
Right.
Yes.
So thank you.
Thank you. So, your education. What did you study?
Yeah. So
And of course, you met Mother, no?
No, I didn't get.
You didn't get.
I was
You
born
were
in
too young.
'74. I
74. I see.
Yeah. So I missed having her darshan. So I joined the kindergarten.
Who were your teachers?
Oh, I think there was Sri Tidi. Yeah. I mean, my father and she, they sang together, and so it was
Shriti.
Shriti. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Who else was Simi Ben? I think yes.
Simi Ben
Yeah,
also.
definitely. So yeah, these two I remember. Yeah.
In kindergarten.
In kindergarten, there's Olga on the piano.
Olga,
Yeah,
of course.
absolutely.
I remember her with love. Yes.
Yeah. What a bundle of energy
Yes.
and sweetness. Definitely. So I started. Yeah. So.
She played and I sang before Nolini.
Oh wow! Fantastic.
Yeah. And I sang Rose of God.
Lovely. Yeah.
I remember her well. So
I went through.
Then you went to
kindergarten, Delafont, and all the way to knowledge, and some interesting moments to share.
I would like to know the teachers you liked the most.
Oh, I think. Let me put it this way. There were some interesting teachers. One was obviously, I think, Olga, because she's the one who kind of made me aware what the piano was.
Oh.
Yeah, because I come from an Indian classical music
Of course,
family, and we
yes,
come with
yes.
the Tanpura. Of course, this is the iPhone Tanpura.
Sure.
And we had my father sang, I sang at home. I played the tabla I started when I was maybe 4 years. Yeah. And so it was Indian classical music, and I used to wonder, what is Olga doing and playing that large instrument, and she was so small.
Yes.
Yeah, and she was like holding us together. We were a bunch of kids. Some of us sang in tune, and you understood also the backbenchers did not sing much in tune, but she managed to hold them together. The piano held things together. So that's what got me interested into piano.
And how did you learn? Just on your own?
No, I started with Suzanne, the cellist. So I was probably her first student. Yeah. And she said, I play the cello, but I can teach you some piano.
Oh.
So I must have been 10 years old. Yeah. And I started with Bach's first prelude.
Oh.
Yeah, which I still am in love with. That amazing work. And so one day, I just thought that, what if I were to extend Bach's first prelude? And I was extending it, in the same pattern, using the similar motifs. And then she overheard me. I thought I would get quite a scolding.
Suzanne overheard you?
Yeah. I thought I would get a scolding. I didn't know maybe if I was disrespecting Bach or not. She said, no, but this is called improvisation, composition in the Western classical context.
Yes.
And this is something which I was very used to in the Indian classical, because when we learn a raga, we improvise a lot.
Yes.
Within that space.
Yes.
So you see, suddenly the two paradigms of music, they talked.
They joined.
So then she spoke. Then I was put in touch with Sunilla, who was who was a friend of my grandfather, because they used to work earlier, many years ago, when he used to play the sitar. Sunilla used to play the sitar before he went into the keyboard.
Yes.
And so I got to meet Sunilla and also his assistant Patrick. And
could you tell us a little bit about Sunilda?
Oh yeah,
not too many have shared experiences about him.
So I got to meet him. He said, "Oh, you are Moni Vishnu Chaudhary's grandson." That's my grandfather's name, and Arun Vishnu's son. And because my father, he taught classical music in ashram school, apart from being a professional vocalist, and also taught in Auroville in Bharat Nivas.
Oh.
Yeah. And so he said, "Oh, of course we know each other's family well." And there was Milidi.
Millie.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
And we were. So he said, "Oh, it's interesting to know that you are stepping into Western classical music, because nobody had done it from our family. We were always on the Indian classical front." And yeah. So he said, he told me one interesting paradigm. He said, "See, when it comes to orchestration, harmonization, if you're composing something complex," I said, "Yeah, I think I'm bringing in rhythms that are quite complex and raga structures onto the piano, and I want others to play with me, but my friends can't handle it because they were not as advanced as I was." So he said, "There is one solution." I said, "What?" "You have to become like Ma Durga with 10 hands." "And how do you become that?" He said, "With electronic music."
Oh, he turned you on to it, electronic
Yes.
music.
Yeah. So he said, that's what gives you that space, because you can layer things even with your 2 hands and 1 brain.
My God.
So I think around the age of 12, 13, I slowly started getting into electronic music without knowing what it was. Oh, of course, we got to listen to Sunilda's music and, of course, Mother's organ every morning, and also during the darshans in the playground. But how it happened, what happens. So it was a fascinating world, along with piano, obviously. And I was learning tabla and Indian classical at home. And
who did you study tabla with?
Tabla I studied with Tarun Banerjee. And also the art of accompaniment I learned from my father, Arun. Indian classical vocal with my father at home. So it was a lot of musicality centered education, but it also had connections with poetry. It has connection with body movement, because everything's connected.
So you studied dance also?
Yeah, I was into free dance with, I think, Geeta Lal, and so that was, everything started. It was like making sense, because I had Tanmayda as my French teacher, and we spoke a lot about the questions he had posed to the mother, especially in the area of sleep.
Oh, can you share some of that?
Yeah, he said one very interesting point, which I still remember when I was probably 12, 13. He said that you need to go to the school. We all need to go to the school of sleep, education of sleep. We forget that it's not about what's happening in the awakening hours only. If you're spending 1/3 of your life sleeping, we need to make that conscious, that medium. So we used to actually discuss what lucid dreaming could be, what the mother spoke to him about the world.
Spoke a lot.
Yeah,
yes.
and about the subliminal space, and what it means to, how do you get to a restful sleep but awakened sleep. So as and when I started growing up, a lot of my compositions came in sleep.
And they remained when you woke up?
Yeah, they remained sometimes. Sometimes I used to lose them, but as I worked on myself to become a better adhar, that means a better container,
Yes.
I could remember them, whether it's poetry, whether it's music.
So you write poetry also?
I did, yeah, I still do. So I see it as an extension of music. Somewhere it's a composition of words, composition. It's about composition, whether it's photography, whether it's visual art, painting, architecture. So
great.
So this is how composition writing and composition in music grew up together,
Yes.
and also it made connections to whatever I did. So it was a very integrative.
So
approach.
did you have a close relationship with Tanmay?
Yes, yes. I think I would. I had a very interesting conversation, and also he appreciated my compositions of music.
And you were in the free progress
I was, yeah, I was. We called ourselves. We were one of the guinea pigs of free progress.
Oh, I see.
And Tanmay, that was our. Yeah, he was a shepherd.
Yes, he was. Yes, he
Absolutely.
was.
So we were. I was part of the free progress system.
And what are you doing these days now?
Yeah, that's so. Once I completed my studies, higher course, I spent a few years in Bangalore working. First, I worked in the area of music composition for computer games, electronic medium, which was an amazing space because from the large canvas of, Western classical music, Indian ragas, suddenly if somebody tells you, I want you to do miniature art in 15 seconds loops.
Yeah.
And give this emotion out. It was like a wow.
Amazing.
I mean, it was a huge change. To compress time.
Beauty.
Yeah, and into that little moment. And I got to work with the Japanese companies. Which was amazing again because all the little sources of knowledge that one gets to read in Komota Ersula Dhammapada by the mother was put to application. Even when I was put as part of the youngest member of the negotiating table with the Japanese clients, they said, how come you understand our values? I said, well, I know I come from a place where the mother spent years in Japan and she even translated Dhammapada. That was an interesting revelation for them that here's an Indian who could follow what they're trying to say. It's about the Zen, even in electronic art.
Did you learn any Japanese?
Just a few words. Yeah, in fact, I also was part of I was the principal designer of a software for composing music. And in fact, I got an award for it because they said, what you designed is probably very integrative. I said, well, this is stemming from integral education. So it was all about giving freedom to the learner. In this case, the target audience was primary school students of Japan.
Primary school students?
Yeah. So they could actually play with notes, and then the notes would kind of fall into place. So they could paint with notes on the screen,
yes,
and then things would fall in place. And so that they said, "Oh, this was interesting. We never thought about it." I said, "Yeah, I never thought about it, but it just feels like it should be." Music or art or any kind of learning should not be a drudgery. It should be a joyful experience. That's where I start, and this is where I come from. So they said, in fact, a couple of them, they even came down here to visit the Samadhi. I said, they said, we want to know you're very different from the rest of the team. I said, well, if I'm a product, you need to come to the factory and the source. And the source is a Samadhi. So they came down to visit. Yeah.
So how long did you work with them?
I got to work with about 2-3 years, yeah. And then I went into research. I was selected by MIT Media Lab's Music Mind and Machine Group. We had a research and development center in Bangalore and Boston, obviously, as well. MIT Media Lab is. So we had one in Bangalore, so where they tapped into the best brains of India. And when in the interview they said they wanted somebody who understands music, the paradigms of music, as well as computer science, which I had learned here in Ashram School. So I brought these two paradigms together, and also my job was interesting because it was to come up with new product ideas in the world of artificial intelligence and music. And that was an interesting experience because that's where I discovered that in a way, when we are trying to see artificial intelligence, we are trying to self-observe ourselves. How does the brain compose music? How does our entire body, mind, spirit perceive music, perceive sound, perceive media? I mean, in terms of patterns, in terms of motives. For me, it was a beautiful parallel world that had its overlapping zones with integral yoga.
Yes.
So I got to work with some of the best minds in MIT.
How long did you stay with them?
I was for 2 years, yeah.
2 years.
And we got to work with one of the pioneering products of that time, which was the world's first artificially intelligent karaoke system. Where if you sang a little out of tune and out of tempo, the machine, the software would adjust to your voice.
Really?
Live. So suddenly it opens up a whole new chapter that it's okay not to sing in tune, it's okay not to sing in tempo. You can still do it. You can still experience music. So this was ranked among the top 25 products when MIT Media Lab completed 25 years.
Now?
It's on the market. It's been there for quite a while. Yeah, I'm talking. This is back in the late 90s.
Late 90s. Okay.
Yeah.
Then what did you do from there?
Oh, from there I got back to Pondicherry, and I was wondering what to do. One is I started teaching in from school. I taught in the free progress system, the system I grew up in. I taught composition in terms of music on one hand, and also writing. The idea was to build projects and project management skills at a high school level, where you can think, observe, execute, and collaborate. So it was about putting together what I had learned here in the Fountainhead Ashram School, as well as all the experiences I brought back from MIT Media Lab and everything else.
And how did your students react?
Oh, it was considered first, of course, the other co-teachers, they wondered what I was doing, but I said, this is how you get into a space where it's about the process. It's about apprendre. That means the ability to learn. So today it could be carpentry, tomorrow it could be music, day after it could be pottery. It's about understanding the process to be able to be adaptive and raise our cognition and consciousness.
So you've been here since when?
So I got back, I think, around in 2000, in fact, again.
Oh, so you've been here 20 years?
20 years, back, based on years.
20 years now.
Yeah, almost, exactly 20 years.
Marvelous.
Yeah,
Wow.
so I started teaching them, and then I got to work with UNESCO at one point in Paris, infusing some elements of integral education into some of their education and training programs. I've been working with several units and research initiatives in Aurobindo.
Can you tell me about
Sure.
some of those?
Sure.
And
So
your experience about Aurobindo?
Oh, yeah,
also.
it's interesting. I always found interesting, it's like they seem to be, the Sri Aurobindo Ashram and Aurobindo, they seem to be like two sides of the same coin. They have their perspectives which stem from the same and yet are different in its own way. So it's like malleable, and at the same time the challenges are quite unique. So I got to work with several teams there, both in research, in education, in sustainable development.
With whom?
Several people like Joss.
Okay.
We got to work a lot. Then we got to work with also trying to look back into the grand project called CIRU, Center for International Research in Human Unity, which was an initiative by Roger Angers. So, and also by Kirit Bhai, he tried to revive it. So we went going back into those papers and figuring out whether something can emerge now. It was a whole assessment. It took us quite a few years, and also talking to senior Aurobillians like Shraddhavan and understanding what they feel about it in today's world, in the contemporary state that Aurobindo is and can go towards in the future. With Joss, it was about working in the area of deep ecology and sustainable development to figure out the integral education paradigms there that are emerging and the challenges, and also the challenges of working with the government.
Did you work with the recording people at all?
In terms of
I
music?
think they made evolution fast forward.
Yes. That was that's third. One more component. Yes. So Manoj, Pavitran, Hemant, and I, we were to put it in a very Sanskrit word, we were the three murtis, like the three trios.
I see.
So Manoj handled the text, Hemant handled the visual and I was in charge of the music and sound. So yeah, that was another fascinating journey across 9 years,
Oh,
where we had to dive into the works of Sri Aurobindo and the mother and understand what it would mean in today's contemporary context, and using symbols that the new generation and the future generation could understand. The medium, to use multimedia. Second is also to also not simplify but not dilute at the same time the intensity of Sri Aurobindo's cosmology. And also when you have visuals and the music, it gives you a more holistic experience for many in today's world.
Certainly.
So it took us about 9 years to produce quite a few. I think we have three-part films and I think a couple of short films, which were shown in some of the, apart from the Aurobindo Film Festival, some of the education centers.
So, are you an ashramite now?
No, I'm not an ashramite. I'm an ashramite at heart.
Yes.
But I chose this path where I could serve both Auroville and the ashram, and also continue with my quest in the area of music, also as a healing medium.
As a healing medium.
So that's another aspect where I felt a need to relook into integral education and integral music, where can it be used in the area of music therapy. So and I developed with Mother's Grace and Sri Aurobindo's Grace, a training program called, and a perspective called Know Your Rhythm, where I suppose that we all are a vibration, and we all have a rhythm to ourselves, in ourselves. And when we are not in rhythm with ourselves, we fall ill. We are not into the space of wellness, well-being, and developing that. So I have been into research formally with, I have represented India at the World Congress for Music Therapy in Vienna, where I got to present, I was chosen among the 8 training programs.
So you went to Vienna?
Yes, I was also the final artist, composer of the opening ceremony. In fact, most of these links are on my site called ninad.in.
Pardon?
Ninad.
Ninad.in.
Yeah, so that's another aspect. And I continue to be also for last, I think, about 15-16 years also member of the research committee of Ashram, where all the research that I create, or that gets created through me and my collaborators, find its way into Sri Aurobindo Ashram's annual report for research activities, which finally goes from the ashram to the Indian government.
So you work with the archives people?
It is directly with the Grace Office.
Directly with Grace Office.
Yeah. So
marvelous.
Yeah, so that keeps continuing. So
wonderful.
Yeah.
Anything you can share with us about other teachers? Because there have been so many in your life.
Oh yeah, I think quite a few. And there's also Manoj Das. I think he did help.
From Orissa.
Yes,
yes,
writer and philosopher. He was my teacher of composition, and I think he having conversations. Composition of writing.
I see.
Because and very interesting, because he taught us somewhere the art of conversation.
Oh.
I mean, it was more about conversation leading to composition. So that was a very important. He was my teacher in knowledge. Yeah.
Marvelous.
So I still remember him. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so
Navin.
much.
Thank you so much.
Namaste.
Namaste.